Former incompetent President Barack Obama has completed the tour promoting his memoir and is now writing a memoir about his tour promoting his memoir. When he's finished, he plans to write a memoir about writing the memoir about his tour promoting the memoir. The current memoir, entitled America, It's Just Not Good Enough for Me, has become a bestseller after the former bad president's promotional tour, which he'll write about in his new memoir, America, It Still Can't Live Up to Me, which he'll writing about in his next memoir, Stop Bothering Me, America, You Just Don't Rate. In his memoir about his memoir's promotional tour, Obama will explain that his interview with Oprah Winfrey was actually a visual effect in which Obama was made to appear as if he was in the same room with Oprah Winfrey, even though she couldn't possibly deserve to be in the same room with Obama because Oprah Winfrey is part of America, and America just isn't good enough to be in the same room with Obama. When he finishes writing about that, he'll writing about how you aren't in the same room with him while he's writing because you too are part of America and don't deserve to be there. Obama's current memoir was originally contracted to be 100,000 words long, but instead came out closer to being 100,000 pages long. Obama says that was not because he's a narcissistic incompetent who thinks he knows vastly more than in fact he does and couldn't even read the contract, but instead is because 100,000 words was simply not enough to contain the worlds that are contained within Barack Obama, each one of them better than America. Obama says he'll begin work on the memoir of the tour as soon as the tour ends, and will begin work on the memoir about the memoir as soon as the memoir ends, so that he will disappear into an endless world of Obama, which will be much, much better than America. America says he can't wait for him to disappear. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, the vast right-wing conspiracy known as Klavanon not only continues, but this entire show is going to be about Klavanon, which I will explain to you right after you go on YouTube and subscribe to my channel, the Andrew Klavan channel, where you can get all kinds of fresh content. If you ring that bell, we'll deliver it to your house in a small truck. We'll wear masks. We'll take your silverware, possibly hold you at gunpoint, and then recede. So you want to hit that bell and also leave a comment. And if the comment is sufficiently annoying and just kind of rasping enough, we'll put it on the show because it'll fit right in. Today we have Brandon Sorensen, who said they reelected Nancy Pelosi because everyone knows the only way to stop a Kraken is with Medusa's severed head. A very sophisticated, classical joke. The last Kraken joke we had, a couple of people made comments today that if one VJS said, if I ever get Klavan to laugh that hard at one of my comments, my life will be complete. Truly, this was a comment from a Noir Vala that I tried to read and couldn't get through. I actually, at night, when my wife came home over dinner, I tried to read it to her, and I still couldn't get through it. It's nice to know, after all these years, the Kraken has chosen to side with the Republicans. We now have 100% of the gigantic, legendary, cephalopod-like sea monster voting population. So I don't know why that cracked me up, but it did. So I like to exercise a lot of different ways. I like to get outside and exercise, but I don't always have the time to go outside, and that's why this Echelon bike I've been using is absolutely terrific. Echelon is one of those bikes. It's so much cheaper than the other brand, but it really does work, and they have these wonderful classes on your iPad. You just put your pad on the bike, and there are people there. You can do them live. You can test yourself against other people. It really is a good exercise experience. Echelon offers the next generation of connected fitness bikes, fitness mirrors, rowing machines, and their all-new Echelon Stride Smart treadmill. These things really do keep you fit, and they're just fun. It's fun to have the instructors. Some of the instructors are funny. Some of them are just very accurate and really good at what they do. I really enjoy it. Go to echelonfit.com/Klavan. That's ECHELON fit.com/Klavan and try any Echelon fitness equipment at home for 30 days. And I know you're thinking, yeah, sure, I can spell Echelon, but how do you spell Klavan? It's Klavan. There are no E's in Klavan. I just make it look, am I making it look easy? I don't think so. All right, Klavanon is back. And for those of you who are drinking your way through 2020 and have lost most of your memory, Klavanon is the reality that gives rise to crazy conspiracy theories like QAnon. I don't believe in the QAnon conspiracy theory that there's some sort of hidden battle going on between Satan-worshiping pedophiles and Donald Trump, but I do believe there's an awful lot of sexual abuse of minors among the powerful and that the powerful conspire to cover it up. That's the Klavanon beneath the QAnon, the conspiracy beneath the conspiracy theory. Now, last week, Trump lawyer Sidney Powell made an extraordinary claim. She said an international cabal of leftists cyber stole millions of votes from Donald Trump, and Trump actually won in a landslide. Now, she's been kicked off the Trump legal team, and it's a pretty good guess that it's because she can't show the proof required to support that kind of a claim. I'm almost positive that's why they kicked her off. But even if her story is just a conspiracy theory, Klavanon is operational here. There is, in fact, an international cabal of leftists who want to steal our sovereignty and impose socialism on us. I spoke about them last week, the World Economic Forum, with their wicked plans to use the pandemic as a chance for a, quote, great reset that will bring about international socialism. These are the sorts of people for whom God made tar and feathers. So even if Sidney Powell is wrong about the election, and I suspect very strongly she is, there will still be plenty of conspiracy beneath the conspiracy theory. Now, it's always difficult to make our way to the truth, but it's especially difficult when our press is just so corrupt. The people who brought us Trump as a Russian spy and Brett Kavanaugh is a mass rapist have no more business asking us to believe them about the election than they do asking us to believe them about the Chinese flu. They're trash. Their word is worth nothing. And being surrounded by liars creates fertile soil for conspiracy theories to grow. But just because their side is wrong, that doesn't make our side right. There are important reasons not to become a conspiracy theorist. I'll talk about those in a minute, but it's equally important when the world tempts you into QAnon to keep looking for Klavanon, namely the truth. So all weekend long, I wrote a column basically before Sidney Powell was kicked off the legal team when she made this comment about what happened at the election. Well, let's play the comments. It's cut 6.
This is stunning, heartbreaking, infuriating, and the most unpatriotic acts I can even imagine for people in this country to have participated in any way, shape, or form. And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it, and we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
So I wrote a column basically saying I am not expecting her to be able to prove that. That is not something I'd be surprised and delighted. I'd be the first person to admit, oh, well, gee, I was not expecting that, but there it is. But all I'm saying is I feel it's irresponsible to believe a claim like that without proof, just as it would be irresponsible not to believe it if proof were supported. And I spent the weekend with people writing me emails, calling me all kinds of names, from telling me I would have helped Hitler kill the Jews, to telling me that I was abandoning the fight and leaving us to descend into the Dark Ages. And, the only ones that do hurt my feelings are when people say, oh, I've been a big fan, but now I can't listen to you anymore, because I'm giving you the same thing I was always giving you, which is the best version, the honest version of what I see. That's the same thing I'm always giving you. And when you say, well, now suddenly you're a liar and a fraud, even though I liked everything you were saying before, there's something wrong with that. And I'll try and explain what it is. The problem with these conspiracy theories is conspiracy theorists tend to find circumstantial evidence that they think is suggestive of something. Like, for instance, there's this company Dominion, you know all about this Dominion software, and there was another company named Smartmatic, and I said in my column there was no connection between them, but there is this tenuous connection that there was a company between them, one of them got rid of, and the other one really bought up its assets because it was going broke. I knew about that, but I didn't think that was an actual connection. But okay, that's a connection. And so somebody says, well, they were in Venezuela, and there's the proof. But you use evidence like that as proof while ignoring all the evidence there is on the other side, like the fact that Trump lost wealthy suburbs, where a lot of times they didn't have Dominion software, that the software, when they recounted in Georgia, the software had counted the votes fairly accurately, that Republicans won on the lower down on the ballot where Trump lost, meaning people had said, we don't like the left, but we don't like Trump either. The fact that Trump has been unpopular despite all the good things he's done. So you got to balance these things. But listen, I don't care about the lying media. I know they've lied, and I know they've done just exactly what Trump is doing. And I know sometimes Trump has to do the things that the media does because he doesn't have a media to support him like the left does. I don't care about the left saying, oh, Trump is destroying democracy. They've done nothing but attack democracy for the last 4 years. None of that matters to me. What I do care about is us, you and me and the right and all my friends on the conservative side. A conspiracy theory is a machine for turning grief into anger, right? Grief is an enormously painful experience. I feel grief over Trump's loss. I prayed that Trump would win. I don't think he did win. I don't think there was that much fraud. I think he lost exactly in the way I feared he would lose for 4 years, and exactly the way I thought he might lose because of his attitude and the way he treats people. I was afraid that was going to beat him. I think that is essentially what happens. That makes you sad. Being sad, having grief is a feeling of helplessness. When somebody dies, you realize that you're up against something that's just too big. There's nothing you can do. Nobody wants to feel helpless. Everybody wants to feel like they've got power. Being helpless is very traumatic. So conspiracy theory teaches you that, oh no, it's not, don't feel grief, feel anger because we were tricked, you were stolen, it took something away from you. So Tucker Carlson comes out and he says, hey, I'd like to see some proof. Suddenly Tucker's a villain. Tucker, who was a hero 10 minutes ago, suddenly he's a villain. Suddenly I'm a villain. Suddenly, I've been telling you all this stuff. Suddenly The question to ask yourself is there a piece of evidence, if the Supreme Court turns it down, if it won't take their case, if all these courts turn it down, is there a piece of evidence that will convince you? Or are you committed to being angry and bitter and feeling that great conspiracies are out there trying to hurt you and take things away from you and just going on in bitterness for the rest of your life with everybody who disagrees with you being the enemy? Not a way to live. It's not a good way to live. It really isn't. I mean, it can't just be true. They have to be able to prove it's true. It can't be that everybody is betraying you when the courts start to turn this stuff down. So let me just take a look at what happened over the weekend. This is the Klavanless weekend, right? A Pennsylvania court threw out a Trump lawsuit. A U.S. District Court Judge Matthew Brand wrote in his order that Trump had asked the court to disenfranchise basically 7 million voters. So talking about a lot of the people in Pennsylvania. And the judge came down really hard on him. He said, one might expect that when seeking such a startling outcome, a plaintiff would come formidably armed with compelling legal arguments and factual proof of rampant corruption. But that didn't happen. Basically, he said they had no proof. All right. Now, Jenna Ellis, who's part of a friend of this show, and I like her very much, and she's on the Trump team. She said, well, we're trying to get to the Supreme Court, so this is just out of the way. Sidney Powell doubled down on her conspiracy theory and went after Georgia, I think it was. Let's play cut 8.
Jordan Sekelo said that there's going to be a filing soon in Georgia that would be explosive. Can you tell us anything? Can you make some news with us here tonight? Tell us anything new that you're going to present in that filing in Georgia.
Well, I can't say that yet, but hopefully this week we will get it ready to file.
Sidney,
it will be biblical.
So it's going to be biblical. It's going to be the Kraken. It's going to be Kraken good biblical. She even went after the Georgia Secretary of State, Brian Kemp, who's saying, we recounted the votes. Trump lost Georgia. So she went after him. This is cut 9.
Probably going to be the first state I'm going to blow up, and Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State need to go with it because they're in on the Dominion scam with their last-minute purchase or award of a contract to Dominion of $100 million. The State Bureau of Investigation for Georgia ought to be looking into the financial benefits received by Mr. Kemp and the Secretary of State family about that time.
Just to clarify, you're saying that Governor Kemp, who's been a longtime ally of the president, is directly involved because of financial benefit in the conspiracy to defeat the president in Georgia?
We have certainly been told that there is evidence of that.
Yeah, Kemp is a big Trump guy, and okay, so we've been told that there was evidence of that. She went on with Glenn Beck, and she said, quote, "Our forces," unquote, "have confiscated a voting company server in Germany linked to alleged pro-Joe Biden fraud committed by Dominion Voting Systems. The military," if that's who she was talking about, "and the voting company have denied that claim." So finally, Trump's legal team issued a statement saying Sidney Powell is practicing law on her own. She is not a member of the Trump legal team. She is also not a lawyer for the president in his personal capacity. Now, that's not what they were saying before. The Trump team was saying before that Powell was their lawyer. And, just to put a good word in for Jenna, if you listen to what Jenna has been saying in all these press conferences, she's basically been saying, we want to make sure that the vote was valid. Everybody should want to do that. She's a lawyer working for a client, Donald Trump. That's what he wants to do. That's what she's saying they're doing. And it's important. I mean, what are you going to say now? Is Trump a traitor to Trump for throwing Sidney Powell under the bus? Is only the person who's saying what we want to be true, we want it to be true, that Trump won the election, is only the person who's saying that the only honest person because she's saying what we want to be true? Did Trump now just betray Trump? Has Trump now just betrayed Trump? Like, are we angry at Trump because he wanted proof that Sidney Powell wasn't delivering, so he threw her under the bus? I mean, remember, these guys go into court, and this is important. Rudy Giuliani went into court and he was asked, is this a fraud case? And he said, no, this is not a fraud case. Well, why did he do that? Because when you're in court, you're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to accuse people in a court. You're under oath. There's legal penalties for doing that. So in court, where it counted, Rudy Giuliani said, this is not a fraud case, okay? And they've been doing that repeatedly, okay? And the Trump team is moving on. They're doing, they have other suits and all this stuff, but the window is narrowing. There's less and less stuff that they can do. There's going to come a point, it's going to get to the Supreme Court, I believe, and the Supreme Court will probably make a decision based on, remember, the Supreme Court has a lot of leeway about what cases they take, and the Supreme Court may look at this and say, it's not going to change the outcome, so we're not going to listen to all the details. At that point, you're going to be faced, if you still want to hold to the conspiracy theory, if you still want to avoid the grief, at that point, you're going to be faced with saying that this Supreme Court, which is now a 6-3 Supreme Court, with John Roberts being wobbly, is also betraying everybody. I mean, so at what point do we say, we've got to move on to the fight ahead, because Klavanon is real. There really is stuff that we have to fight against. And a couple of the people who wrote to me basically feel that Trump is the last stand. And that's a very conservative mindset thing to say. The conservatives are always saying, this is it. If we lose this, everything is gone. That's why we never play the long game. That's why we never fight for the culture, which is, I think, one of the things we need to be fighting for is the culture. We never play the long game because we're always convinced, lose this fight and it's over. Lose this fight and we go communist. Lose this fight. Right now, Georgia is so important. Winning a Senate race in Georgia is so important because there are a lot of leftists out there pushing Joe Biden to the left. But if he's got to deal with Mitch McConnell, that's a very different situation. And Joe Biden is used to that situation. That's the situation that Joe Biden, has lived with for 47 years, negotiating with the other side. That's where we want him. We want him negotiating with the other side so that he can't do the crazy, crazy stuff. Some of the crazy stuff he's talked about, the Green New Deal and the taxes. I mean, basically, as long as Mitch McConnell is in charge in the Senate, he's not getting that far. There'll be bad stuff, but it's not going to be, the end of the world. So again, I'm sad Trump lost. I am, I think he did a really good job, but the people have spoken, and unless they really can prove that hundreds of thousands of votes were stolen. I mean, here's Kevin Cramer, a senator in North Dakota. He's breaking with Trump now. He's saying, no, this is not happening. It's cut 15.
I'm just speaking strictly now from this attack on democracy, as you call it. These are legal systems. These are processes that are in our Constitution, in our laws, and they're not just appropriate, but they're really an obligation, frankly, to the millions of Americans that President Trump is a reflection of. I know a lot of people like to think that we're the reflection of him. He's a reflection of millions of people that want to see him fight this to the end. Now, there has to be an end, Chuck. I agree. There has to be an end. Yeah. I frankly do think it's time to, it's past time to start a transition, to at least cooperate with the transition. I'd rather have a president that has more than one day to prepare should Joe Biden, end up winning this. But in the meantime, again, he's just exercising his legal options.
Kramer was one of the first people to step up and support Trump when he was running the first time. And he's a Trump, I won't call him a Trump clone, but he's a Trump guy. He's does a lot of the same stuff, believes in a lot of the same stuff that Trump believes in. Trump can concede and also continue the legal fight. He can begin the transition and also continue the legal fight. But when you're losing guys like Kramer, it's not because Kramer's a traitor to the cause. That's not the reason. It's because he's looking at what's going on too. And we all have to do it. We all have to face what is happening. Hard to believe, but Christmas is almost here. And you're probably thinking, I didn't think what I'm supposed to get my people, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Go to Paint Your Life. Paint Your Life can give you a truly meaningful gift. You can take any picture of anything you want, and they will get a painter to turn it into a painting. And the painter will work with you, will stay in contact with you. I did it. It really does come out well. It's a nice gift. You can do your pets, your kids, your wife, whatever you want to do. I just did a 7-foot-tall one of me. No, I didn't, but I did one of me just to test it out, and it really came out great. At paintyourlife.com, there's no risk. If you don't love the final painting, your money is refunded, guaranteed. And right now, as a limited time offer, you can get 20% off your painting. That's right, 20% off and free shipping. How do you do that? You text the word Andrew to 64,000. Text Andrew to 64,000, Andrew to 64,000, and you will get 20% off a beautiful painting. Paint Your Life celebrates the moments that matter most. The thing that makes it so bloody hard is not just the craziness on the left, it's the press. The press just sticks in your throat. Here's Chuck Todd telling us that we're getting our news from terrible sources. And yes, I'm not joking. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, Klavan, you're such a funny guy. Chuck Todd talking about us getting news from bad sources. But no, this is actually what he says. This is Cut 11.
I buy into the theory that the death of the local newspaper is basically was the beginning of this, that shoved everybody to Facebook. And there's just way too many people that use Facebook as their and cable news as their information vehicles. And certainly Facebook is certainly not a trustworthy platform. I'm sorry. I'm yet to have anybody prove to me that Facebook can be a trustworthy platform for information right now.
Many of us feel exactly the same way about Chuck Todd, and certainly about NBC, where they killed the Harvey Weinstein story on orders from Hollywood, basically, from the people who own them in Hollywood. Chuck Todd, who had everybody on saying Trump was a Russian asset, NBC, which has been an absolute conveyor of conspiracy theories against Donald Trump, suddenly telling us that, all these people are on Facebook and they're not getting information from good sources like us, like them. Let me read something from the New York Times. New York Times is a former newspaper. The baseless Great Reset conspiracy theory rises again. That's the headline in the New York Times. A baseless conspiracy theory about the coronavirus has found new life as cases surge once again. On Monday morning, the phrase "the Great Reset" trended with nearly 80,000 tweets, with most of the posts coming from familiar far-right internet personalities. Oh, maybe that was me. The conspiracy alleges that a cabal of elites has long planned for the pandemic so that they could use it to impose their global economic control on the masses. In some versions of the unfounded rumor, it is only President Trump who is thwarting this plan and keeping the scheme at bay. But no, that is the extreme version of what they're saying. That's the extreme version of what they're saying, of what people are saying, like me, is what I'm saying is wealthy people, international group of very wealthy people, are basically planning to use the pandemic to impose international socialism. Now, what would make me think a thing like that? Well, I go over to the World Economic Forum, right, where the Davoisie, they call them the Davos gang, and I look at their website and they have the Great Reset. And here's what it says. They say we have to use this moment with the coronavirus spreading to do three things. The first would steer the market toward fairer outcomes. Now, this is an international cabal of billionaires telling they're going to steer the market toward fairer outcomes. To this end, governments should improve coordination. So international governments, different governments from different countries should work together for tax, regulatory, and fiscal policy, upgrade trade arrangements, and create the conditions for a stakeholder economy, which is a way of saying that that companies should not just support their shareholders by making profits, but their stakeholders. So anybody who has a stake, for instance, you have a stake in the environment, right? You have a stake in the environment. So that we need a stakeholder economy, not a shareholder economy. Now, many of us, of course, believe that markets are the best way to govern value, and we believe that companies should be free to do whatever they think is right. But no, they are saying governments should coordinate to make sure the market produces fairer outcomes. There's a word for that. It's socialism, right? Only it's international socialism because they feel that governments should basically conspire together to do this to the markets, right? The second component of a Great Reset, I'm reading this from their website, okay? This is the New York Times baseless conspiracy that is based on the words of the people conspiring, right? The second component of a Great Reset agenda would ensure that investments advance shared goals such as equality and sustainability. And immediately it comes into your mind, whoa, who shares those goals? I don't share those goals. I don't give a rat's about sustainability. I think it's a complete grift. I think sustainability is a total grift. I don't think that's what companies should be thinking about. Obviously, we should have laws to protect our environment. I'm in favor of that. But sustainability is nonsense. Equality is nonsense. Ain't going to be no equality unless you have socialism. Equality always means oppression. Why? Because look, I can't play basketball like LeBron James. If LeBron James is going to be equal to me on a basketball court, the only way to do that is to make LeBron James play worse. That's how you get equality. And the only way to do that is to oppress him, is to force him not to be able to play as well as he can play, right? He was born with talent. He worked hard for his talent. He plays like no one has ever played before. Putting me on a court and saying I should be equal is absurd. Ain't going to be no equality. That's not a shared goal. So what is that doing? That's imposing goals on us. The Davoisie, this is why tar and feather was made. It is for people like this. The third and final priority of a Great Reset agenda is to harness the innovations of the fourth industrial revolution. That's all the tech that's coming down the pike, to support the public good, especially by addressing health and social challenges. So they get to control the products private companies create. They get to control where they go. They get to decide with the public good. The Great Reset is Klavanon. It is the truth that people like Sidney Powell are making up crazy theories about. It is why people buy into these crazy theories when you have untrustworthy people like Chuck Todd and George Stephanopoulos reporting the news, essentially a corrupt cabal of leftist international corporations reporting the news, people in Davos who have nothing to do with us, no power over us, no point in no interest in us, no right to be a part of our government, conspiring to have an international government that imposes socialism on us instead of the market economy that has built this country and made this country great. You know, you see their footprint. I mean, we have this thing in California, Proposition 16, and Proposition 16 was an attempt to disassemble the California Constitution, which forbids racial discrimination. But they want to bring racial discrimination back so they can discriminate in favor of people they feel were discriminated against. They want to have racial quotas. They want to have Black Lives Matter. They want to have favoritism for black people, which basically turns black people into perennial victims and perennially sad, you know, people who they can't do anything without the help of the government, right? proposition went down in flames. People said, no, we don't want racial discrimination here. We want to be Americans. Even here in California, we want to be Americans. So who is supporting this thing? The ACLU was supporting it, and the Open Society Policy Center, George Soros, the only Jew in the world that the left thinks you're not allowed to attack because it's anti-Semitic. There's only one Jewish person in all the world the left will not attack, and that's George Soros. And George Soros, is fighting with Poland because Poland doesn't want to take all the migrants that the EU says. And George Soros is saying, he's making an excuse. They turned down some rules that the EU put forward, and Hungary and Poland said, we don't want to participate in this because we don't want Europe controlling us. And George Soros goes after them and says, well, they should be defunded. We should defund all these people. Well, what does George Soros have to do with Hungary and Poland? He's in California trying to force racial discrimination on us, putting millions of dollars into winning that. We reject him. Now he's in Poland and what's he got to do with them? He's writing articles about how bad they are. It is truly, truly remarkable to watch this going on and then have people tell you in the New York Times, a former newspaper, have people tell you that you're just making it up. It's just on right-wing media and all this stuff. By the way, I just have to pause here for one moment. My friend Mike Duran tweeted a joke about Angela Merkel talking about these international, the international forces that are basically always run by Germany, because Germany is the one place that really keeps their economy sound. And the joke is that Angela Merkel goes to France and she's stopped at the border by the customs people, and the customs guy says name, and she says Angela Merkel. And the customs guy says nationality. She says German. The guy says occupation, and she says, no, I'm just visiting. So I thought that was pretty good. Anyway, the fact is, it is Klavanon to say, it is not QAnon, it is Klavanon to say there are international forces that we have to fight against. And that's why we have to be paying attention to Georgia. That's why we have to be paying attention to getting MAGA people, America First people, into government, into our governments. If you don't think that these people who get a little power, who get a little taste of power, get out of control, then all you have to do is look at the governors and the way they are behaving in this second wave, the flu season, the second wave of the Wu flu. We know that these shutdowns don't do anything but delay the spread of the disease, and even that is questionable. They're telling people not to go to Thanksgiving. They're telling people not to go to Christmas. Gavin Newsom in California is basically just throwing a temper tantrum because he was caught violating his own rules. He was caught at this fancy dinner party with fancy people in a closed room, sitting together with no masks on, and people called him out for it, and suddenly everybody had to shut down. Suddenly there was going to be a curfew. Everybody's supposed to be indoors by 10 p.m. because that's when the virus stops spreading, and it goes to bed at 10 p.m. I have no idea. In Huntington Beach, I believe it was, they started protesting against this. Here's what that looked like. So they're fighting back, and they're coming out after the time. Some sheriffs are saying they won't enforce it. There are people protesting against this all over the place, just saying they won't do it now. So Newsom reacted again. Newsom is basically, it's a conversation. We're saying you suck. He's saying yes, but I have all the power. So now he's declared that restaurants have to shut. Restaurants have poured so much money into setting up a world in which they can when people can eat outside. We were at a restaurant last night. They had a beautiful little place set up in what used to be like a little parking alley, and they decorated it. And so we could sit outside. It was all heated, and we had a wonderful meal. Wednesday, they have to close. Why? Because Gavin Newsom was caught being a hypocritical tyrant, a petty tyrant. He's not a Nazi. He's a petty tyrant, right? Andrew Cuomo. Do you know this? Andrew Cuomo is going to be given an Emmy. The Emmy, they usually give Emmys to actors, obviously as TV people, but they said the governor's 111 daily briefings worked so well because he effectively created television shows with characters, plot lines, and stories of success and failure. They're celebrating Governor Death. They're celebrating Governor Death. They wanted to give him a Grammy, but Grammy died when he sent flu sufferers into her rest home. So Grammy was out, and we had to go to Emmy, who's still just alive but can't go out because he's shutting down schools. Emmy can't go to school because they're shutting down schools in New York, making no sense whatsoever. In Buffalo, New York, people actually, a health inspector came into the businesses, and the businesses, small businesses, staged a demonstration and basically tossed her. This is cut 4.
This is private property. They're not wanted here. So do your jobs.
Well, her job is...
Your job is to remove people that are not wanted here.
You have a
We're wanted here. They're not.
She's
hiding her name tag. She had
I'm not. It's right here. It's marked here. You can see my name
They're just
tag.
doing their job.
There we go.
You should all be wearing masks. How come
I'm not
none of you
doing
have
anything
masks
wrong.
on?
Don't worry about my health. My health isn't your
You're
concern.
meant to be wearing a mask. It's a government.
Okay, well then write me up.
It's the law.
Okay, then take me to jail.
It's not the law.
Then take me to jail.
Show me the law.
Show me the law.
Anywhere.
Show me the law.
Well, I think we got a good job.
You have to leave. You guys have to leave.
You guys need to leave.
have to leave.
Right now, you're trespassing without a warrant. You need
Mass
to
civil
leave. You
disobedience
need to
starts
leave.
now.
You're trespassing.
We're not
Were you
trespassing.
You're
invited onto the
trespassing.
property?
Doesn't matter.
Then
We
you're
have a right to be
trespassing.
here.
Go get a warrant, dude. Go get a warrant.
You need a warrant.
Go get a warrant.
Trespassing.
Yes, you do.
Come back with a warrant or leave.
Don't.
Come back with a warrant or leave. I mean, people are holding up, their video cameras on their phones and saying, am I being detained? Very important thing to say. I remain kind of naive about cybersecurity. I just always think that no one would care about me and no one would bother to steal my identity. But it's just not true. It's just not true. And I use LifeLock because I know it's not true, and that way I don't have to think about it. Cyber criminals do all kinds of crazy things. I always wonder, why do they do this? Have they nothing better to do? But they'll hide malware in emails, and you get an email, a deceptive email that looks like a real invoice or an invitation or something like this, and you click on it, and then you get a virus in your computer. It's just amazing the kinds of nasty things that people do. And it's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. This holiday season, you could miss certain identity threats by just monitoring your credit and bank statements. Get LifeLock, the leader in identity theft protection. LifeLock helps detect a wide range of identity threats, like, for instance, your social security number going on sale on the dark web. And if they detect your information is in danger, they will send you an alert. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock can help you feel protected this holiday season. Save up to 25% off your first year at LifeLock.com/Klavan. That's LifeLock.com/Klavan for 25% off. Go on the dark net, which is the only place you can find out how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan, no E's. Hey, I got to pause here since we're talking about Thanksgiving and them trying to stop it. Thanksgiving also means Black Friday is almost here. And since last year's Black Friday deal, we have been consistently adding more features and products to our membership program. We're really excited about this. To name a few things, we've added more exclusive Readers Pass content. Our Insider and Above members can now stream our content on Apple TV and Roku. And we're currently adding the entire PragerU catalog. As you know, behind our paywall, your account now comes with custom badges that you can earn by participating in current events. If you're an All Access member, you get to join All Access Live. Lots and lots of stuff. We're continuing to add new features and products all the time. Candace Owens is going to be part of it. So come on over for Black Friday and get a deal when you subscribe to the Daily Wire, which you should. So Phil Murphy, governor of New Jersey, goes on Stephanopoulos. A lot of law officers are just saying, we're not doing this. We're Americans. We're not going to go into Americans' home. Sacramento County Sheriff's Office says we will not be determining compliance with or enforcing compliance of any health or emergency orders related to curfews, staying at home. We're not going into people's homes, say these American law officers, to see what their Thanksgiving is like. That's not this country. It is not this country. So George Stephanopoulos, right? Clinton hack, George Stephanopoulos, has Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey on because the New Jersey cops are saying this as well and is urging him to do something to get these cops to break into people's homes and stop those Thanksgivings. This is cut 7.
We just heard that police chief say he's not going to enforce these new rules. Anything you can do about that?
listen, I heard him say, I don't want to ruin anyone's Thanksgiving. And that gentleman, I believe, is an outlier. What would really ruin your Thanksgiving if somebody gets sick and God forbid dies. So we got to do everything we can. But there's a huge amount of burden here on personal responsibility and doing the right thing.
You know, if he had said that in the beginning, if any of these governors would stop being such petty tyrants, and just, there's a difference between saying, wear a mask, please, and you must wear a mask. There's a difference. And Americans still know the difference. You know, these guys, Stephanopoulos, all of TV is basically just broadcasting, be afraid, obey. Be afraid, obey. And they wonder why nobody does it. And then, of course, they have complete double standard when Black Lives Matter takes to the streets and start throwing bricks through window. Oh, that's safe. You know, you have to balance the public health, the fact that it's good for public health for people to throw bricks through windows, and the fact that it's bad for public health for Trump to hold rallies. I mean, those are the things you have to balance. The hypocrisy is part of tyranny. Hypocrisy is part of tyranny because it's a way of saying to the people, you have no power over us. We have power over you. That is why Gavin Newsom is doing what he's doing, because he's trying to say, no, my hypocrisy doesn't matter. See, I have the power. It doesn't matter. So you have to do what I say. I don't have to do what you say. I don't even have to do what I say, is what Gavin Newsom is telling us, right? This is the hypocrisy is part of the tyranny. Luckily, Joe Biden is on his way, and he has got a plan for how to deal with the virus. This is cut one.
We talked a lot with the governors about what the immediate needs are. We're going to employ the Defense Reconstructed Act to be able to go out there and dictate companies build and do following things. We need much more testing. We need much more masking. We need gloves. I asked them each to go, and I asked the National Governors Association through the Governor Cuomo and the ones on the line to let us know what their shortages are.
So I'm sorry Trump won, but this could be the funniest presidency ever until he keels over. But I mean, this guy, I don't even know what he's talking about. This is the other thing that leads to conspiracy theories. It leads to people distrusting the obvious double standard. Here is Joe Biden. This is really funny, and the sound on it isn't great, so I'll tell you what he's saying afterwards if you can't hear it, but it is amazing. Joe Biden is having a press conference. Let's just play the clip versus cut 3.
Just understand, in my Oval Office, you're mi casa, you casa. I'm going to need you. I hope we're going to spend a lot of time together. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming in.
Mr. Biden, the COVID task force said it's safe for students to be in class. Are you going to encourage unions to cooperate more to bring kids back to classroom, sir?
Why are you the only guy that always shouts out questions?
Mi casa es su casa. Get out of su casa. It's like that is the press being treated with complete. Remember Donald Trump? They keep saying, "Oh my gosh, he's so horrible. He's so mean to us. He keeps calling us fake news. He's a fascist. He's burning up the First Amendment. What a terrible guy!" And then he would stand outside for 45 minutes answering any question they asked him, even as they screamed at him, even as they accused him of things, even as like Jim Acosta put on the Jim Acosta show. Trump answered all those questions. Joe Biden, it's like, why are you shouting questions at me? What is this shouting question? Mi casa es su casa, get out. You know, I mean, this is the thing. And listen to the difference. Here's Mike Pence walking out of a press conference. Listen to the way they treat him. This is cut 5.
Thank you. Are you really not going to take questions? All of you need to answer this. Why is the federal government? What is going on? You're not working with the transition. You're all part of not recognizing democracy. You're all undermining the democratic election. Every one of you. Why is the federal government? And you won't work with the transition.
So that's the way they treat Mike Pence. The thing about this is, I've said this repeatedly, I wouldn't mind them treating Mike Pence like this. I think Pence is a good guy, but I wouldn't mind the press treating him like that. if they treated Biden like that, if they treated Obama like that. That's what we're dealing with. It is not the way they treated Trump. I don't care if they go after, these people are very powerful. Trump, Biden, Obama, they're all very powerful people. I don't mind the press going after powerful people, but they don't. They don't. Obama was brutal to the press. He bugged their phones. He accused them of breaking the law just when they did their job. He was incredibly secretive. They were on the phone with the press, screaming at them all the time whenever they said anything wrong about them. Donald Trump has allowed the press to basically call him a Nazi for 4 years, a Russian asset, a Nazi, whatever it was that particular week, and not done a thing about it. But to them, Trump was the problem. So we see all this. We see all this is going on, and it's very hard to say, we have somebody on our side who maybe isn't telling the truth or maybe gone overboard. And listen, again, Sidney Powell comes out tomorrow and says, here's the proof. And we get a look at it and we say, oh, gee, that is pretty good. That's fine with me. I'll change my mind. But until I see it, she's saying a lot of outlandish and outrageous things. And just because somebody sat next to somebody or somebody knew somebody or somebody bought another software company that the other company used to own, that doesn't mean a damn thing when you're making claims like that. You have got to produce genuine evidence because remember, even the people we don't like, the people we oppose, have the right to vote. And when you negate those votes, the New York Times has caught on to this. They're saying, oh, he's negating black votes, right? They're selling this. They're selling this, right? They know that this is a good thing for them if they don't produce the proof. Today, Joe Biden named as his Secretary of State a guy named Anthony Blinken. I also think he should get Winken and nod to be in there. Or maybe he should just get Winken and Biden will nod. But Anthony Blinken is a globalist, basically. Anthony Blinken is a guy who believes that America first was a bad thing. That's what we're fighting for. What we're fighting for is against these great reset guys and for us. Why? Because we have the values that a lot of countries don't have. And we've seen with the UN, when we all join together, it's the worst countries who rise to the top, right? Because suddenly we're putting them on an equal moral footing with us, and they're not. They're just not. I mean, a lot of countries that are not run like Russia is not on an equal moral footing with us. China, not on an equal moral footing with us. We have the instruments here to protect ourselves. We have the instruments here to protect our free speech. They don't have those instruments. Even England, one of the most free countries on earth, doesn't have those instruments anymore to protect free speech. Say, please come to your house if you express an opinion about Islam online that they don't like. I mean, that can't happen here because of our First Amendment. We want to be in charge of our own country because it's unique, it's uniquely free. Now, if you want to have a global world and we run it, okay, I'm for that. But until that day, I don't want some clown in Davos running it, and that's why we have to fight them. And the way to fight them is to get MAGA people who believe in America first, and America is a sovereign nation with sovereign laws, get them into office, starting with Georgia, continuing in 2 years with the fight for the House, and 4 years bringing forward a guy who believes what Donald Trump believes, but maybe but maybe has better manners. And people were yelling at me about that too. They were saying the communists are trying to take over the world and you care about manners. You bet I do. Because manners, you can fight until the shooting starts, until there's actual violence in the street. You can fight every fight with manners without alienating people, which I think is what happened in this election. So listen, I feel your pain. I feel the pain. I literally feel the pain. I actually am deeply sad about some of the outcomes of this election, deeply hopeful about some of the others. But my mind is going forward. My mind is ahead. I'm not looking backward because no one has convinced me that that's where my mind should be. I'm not going to live a bitter, angry life, always thinking, I could have done something there. Sometimes you just lose, folks. And this time, I think at the top, we lost. If the proof comes in, if the evidence changes, I will look at it, but I'm not your enemy. I'm not your enemy for telling you what I think honestly. That's what you're looking for. That's what you need, because otherwise you get stuck in these machines that are trying to keep you away from your own actual experience of sadness, because sadness is painful. That's what I got to say. But I'll be back again tomorrow. If anybody is still left listening, I'm Andrew Klavan. This is The Andrew Klavan Show. The Andrew Klavan Show is produced by Robert Sterling. Executive producer, Jeremy Boring. Our technical director is Austin Stevens. Supervising producer, Mathis Glover. Assistant director, Pavel Wadowski. Edited by Adam Sayevitz and Danny D'Amico. Audio mixed by Robin Fenderson. Hair and makeup, or head and makeup, is by Nika Geneva. Animations are by Cynthia Angulo. Production assistants, McKenna Waters and Ryan Love. The Andrew Klavan Show is a Daily Wire production. Copyright Daily Wire 2020.
Attorney Sidney Powell promises to release the Kraken on election fraud. A Pulitzer Prize winner advocates snuffing out conservatism, and liberals complain after a vicious rapist and murderer gets the death penalty. Check it out on The Michael Knowles Show.